Hello and welcome to York Observatory's weekly Teletube broadcast, the online astronomy and astrophysics program written and presented by the students, faculty, alumni, and friends of York University. We are broadcasting live from the Alumni Carswell Observatory located at York University in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. York YouTube broadcasts every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. local Toronto time. For any questions or comments you have of our past shows, or if you have suggestions for future topics, please send us an email at observe@yorku.ca. You can always connect with us on Twitter or Instagram with the handle at York Observatory and Facebook at Alumni Carswell Ops. Good evening, everyone. I'm Maheen, and I'll be one of your hosts this evening along with Nakul, Zena, Dorsa, and Pouria. We're here from the Alumni Carswell Observatory at York University. Tonight, we've got a special guest speaker, Dr. Parandis Tajbakhsh, joining us, who will be giving us a talk on the topic, the music of Voyagers Golden Records. But before we get started with our show, I would like to mention that the observatory at York campus is in Toronto, and we would like to welcome you all to our show and to acknowledge the traditional land that our telescope is on. The observatory acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many indigenous nations. The area known as Toronto has been taken care by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis. It is now home to many indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Our stargazing and astronomical efforts join the long history and current practices of astronomy for this land. The observatory looks forward to continuing to learn and revitalizing our knowledge in this area. I will now hand it over to Zena to let us know a bit more about what's up in the sky this week. Take it away, Zena.
Thank you, Maheen. Welcome everyone to our show. So before we get started with our talk, I would like to give you a little update on what you can spot in the night sky. So the moon is in a waxing crescent phase, and it has an illumination fraction of 7.53%, as we can see from Earth. And even though the illumination fraction is little, we will actually be able to faintly see the rest of the moon as sunlight reflects off the Earth and goes back to the moon. Well, as beautiful as this phenomenon is to observe, has an even more beautiful and captivating name, and it's referred to as Earth Shine or the Da Vinci Glow. This phase will last for about 7 days, and we will gradually notice that the right edge of the moon will become more and more illuminated until it reaches 50%, which will mark the first quarter phase. Sunset tonight is or was at 7:04 p.m. and it is happening slightly earlier every day as Earth is getting ready to welcome fall of 2022, or should I say we have already welcomed fall? Well, just last week on September 22nd, we marked the fall equinox, which marks the midpoint between the longest and the shortest days of the year. And astronomically speaking, this event occurs when the sun is directly above the equator as it crosses from north to south. We are very lucky tonight to have the opportunity of observing the ISS, or the International Space Station. Well, not for long, but hopefully we can spot it during the 4-minute period starting at 8:44 p.m. And it will be at a maximum height of 53 degrees, and it will disappear also at about 53 degrees northeast. Just 2 days ago, on September 26th, the night sky witnessed the brightest, closest, and largest appearance of Jupiter all year. This event marked the annual opposition of the huge planet as Earth was passing between the Sun and Jupiter. Saturn is also making a beautiful appearance before sunset as well as during the evening. Mars joins the show alongside Jupiter and Saturn from about midnight and nearing sunrise. The Pisces chain, or the Pisces cloud, is another target for us tonight. This chain is a galaxy cluster near Andromeda in the northeastern portion of the night sky. If you're planning on observing the Pisces cloud tonight, make sure you are prepared with a large telescope that supports a decent aperture as well. And last but not least, and also this past Monday, NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, spacecraft was aimed at asteroid Dimorphos. This test is the first of its kind in terms of exploring our potential to deflect or change the trajectory of some hazardous asteroids that might be coming towards our beloved planet. The success of this mission is still being assessed at the moment. Well, on a more positive note, I will be passing it to my friend Pouria, who will be introducing our guest speaker for tonight. Pouria, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So, hello and welcome everyone. Today, I would like to introduce you to tonight's guest speaker, Dr. Parandis Tajbakhsh. Dr. Parandis is a lecturer in astronomy and astrophysics at York University. In 2009, she received her PhD in astronomy and astrophysics from the University of Toronto. She also worked on the possibility of including topology in Einstein's theory of general relativity. She later on joined the fellowship program of St. Mary University after her doctorate retrieval and pursued a Master of Arts degree in Science and Technology Studies from York University, residing within the city of Toronto. Dr. Tajbakhsh is now teaching at York University, Mississauga's University of Toronto, and Humber College. She is very interested in researching the debates on alien life and the relationship between science and religion. I will now hand it over to Dr. Parandis to talk about the music of the Voyagers Golden Records.
Well, thank you very much, Pouria. I appreciate it. I'm very happy to be here tonight as a guest speaker, and I hope that the topic that I'll be speaking about is of interest to your audience. It is a topic that is close to my heart. I really enjoy researching it and talking about it because there is not just astronomy that goes into it, but many other fields that contribute to this particular way of communication with extraterrestrials. So if everything is okay, I guess I can now share my screen.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just give me a second. Okay, Maheen, is this working well?
Yep, looks great.
Okay, great. Okay, so as I'm trying to navigate my way here, as you all know, I will be talking about the music of Voyager Golden Records. So just to start, give you a brief introduction to the Voyager missions. Actually, September is a wonderful month to have this talk because this September, in fact, we on September 5th, celebrated the 45th anniversary of launch of Voyager 1. So the twin spacecrafts, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, were respectively launched in September and August of 1977. Voyager 2 actually was launched before Voyager 1 simply because of the particular trajectory that they had chosen for it. So yes, this is not a mistake or a typo. Voyager 2 was launched in August and Voyager 1 was launched in September of 1977. Exactly 45 years ago. So the two missions, in fact, were designed to perform flyby missions of Jupiter, Saturn, rings of Saturn, and some Jovian moons. In fact, as of August of 2012, Voyager 1 was not only one of the most successful missions in the history of mankind, exploration of solar system, it became the very first object to leave the solar system, to officially leave the solar system. So this was back in August of 2012. So, in fact, Voyager 1 is right now located as at about 158 astronomical units. Okay, so just to remind everyone, an astronomical unit is the average distance between the Earth and the Sun. It amounts to, roughly speaking, 150 million kilometers. So basically, the location, the current location of Voyager 1 is 158 times larger than the distance between the Earth and the Sun. So it really is very, very far away from us. So basically, just to get an understanding as to how far away that is, if you cannot work out the numbers or if you don't like numbers, just think of it this way. The fastest object, the fastest phenomena in the universe is, of course, light. Nothing can go faster than the speed of light, right? So if you were to send a message via light to Voyager 1 at this moment, it would take 22 hours to travel to Voyager 1. It is that far away. Now, Voyager 1 is actually moving at a whopping speed of 61,000 kilometers per hour, and it is moving towards the constellation of Ophiuchus. It is gone from our solar system, but the legacy of it remains, right? And I'll be talking about the legacy of this particular mission tonight. So this image that you can see here is a poster that was produced by NASA, and it actually has a list of the achievements of Voyager. Okay, so here, if you take a closer look, you're going to see that it actually pictured Io's volcano and Titan. It examined Titan's atmosphere, Titan being the moon of Saturn, the largest moon of Saturn. It looked at Triton geysers and so on and so forth. But there are a couple more, like the list of achievements of Voyager is quite long. One of them, if you take a look, is, of course, the pale blue dot, which is the name that is given to a particular picture that was snapped by Voyager 1 before it left the solar system. Of course, I'm going to come back to that in a moment, but just looking at the rest of the list, you're going to see that it is the first man-made object, as I said, that left the solar system, and it is now located in the interstellar space. And of course, it has a souvenir, a postcard from Earth attached to it. And the focus of tonight's talk is going to be that particular souvenir. So going back to the pale blue dot, this is a picture that was actually snapped of our planet by Voyager 1. On the Valentine's Day of 1990, when Voyager 1 was heading away from the solar system, the spacecraft was commanded to look back and take a final photo from its point of origin, being Earth, right? So at a distance of about 6 billion kilometers beyond the orbit of Neptune, the spacecraft turned and took a look back for the last time at its point of origin. And that point of origin, I don't know if it's clear in this image or not, but that little tiny dot right here is our planet Earth, okay? That is sitting in the middle of a sun ray. And it's really is a moment, I believe, for anyone to reckon our place in the universe. This is the planet that we call home, and take a look. Just when you go as far as the orbit of Neptune, it looks like a speck of dust and nothing more than that. So this is one of the biggest legacies of Voyager 1. The title of Pale Blue Dot was taken from writings of astronomer and popularizer of astronomy, Carl Sagan, who I'm going to be talking about more. But I mean, this is such a beautiful picture that I could not resist not to show it to you guys tonight. Now, in addition to all these achievements, of course, the Voyager spacecraft had something tiny attached to them, and that was the so-called Voyager Golden Records. Okay, so forget about all the groundbreaking observations and state-of-art images that it provided at the time when it was sent out. For its time, it was an extraordinary machine. But to the side of this machine, there was attached a souvenir, as I said, from humankind, something that would represent us when this object goes into the interstellar space. Okay. So the so-called golden records, or Voyager Golden Records, as they came to be known, are two identical phonographs that are actually attached to the side of the two spacecrafts, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. And here you can see by this arrow, this tiny thing, this tiny phonograph that is attached to the side of the spacecraft. Now, basically, the idea was that, okay, this thing is the very first man-made object that is going to space, right? So at some point, who knows, maybe some intelligent civilization might come across it and encounter it. So maybe we should leave, sort of, if you want, a fingerprint, something that has our name on it and tells that civilization about us, about the creators of this machine that has come so far away. Who knows, maybe in millions of years, it would be found by some hypothetical advanced civilization. So the question was like, what kind of information should be put there to represent us as a species, as an intelligent species in the Milky Way? Of course, I should mention that Voyager Golden Records were not the first attempt of people of Earth to actually represent themselves in, if you want, the interstellar scenery. Basically, Voyager Golden Records followed an earlier attempt, actually 5 years prior to the launch of Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. The two spacecrafts, Pioneer 10 and Pioneer 11, carried two plaques, which came to be known as Pioneer plaques. And I have a little picture of it here. It's probably a familiar sight to everyone. And of course, the focus of the Pioneer plaques were primarily to convey some science and mathematics in particular, as a means of communicating our understanding of the world to any potential intelligent civilization. So here, the language of mathematics was used to give some information about the place of origin of the Pioneer spacecraft, and also some very, very basic information about us as an intelligent species. So while Pioneer plaque was primarily relying on mathematics as a means of communication with a potential extraterrestrial intelligent civilization, the Voyager Golden Records actually went one step further and tried to show us, to represent us, not as an intelligent species, but as a feeling species, a species who has feelings and who actually uses art as a means to express themselves, right? So let's take a closer look and see, in fact, what is the content of the Voyager Golden Record. So here I have a picture of the Voyager Golden Record, the phonograph itself, and of course the jacket that comes on top of it with all the information as to how to open and read the information that is, if you want, encoded within this particular phonograph. On the left, I have a picture of Carl Sagan, who chaired a committee to basically choose the content that would go on to Voyager Golden Record. Of course, the Pioneer plaque also was the work of Carl Sagan and a couple of his close, if you want, collaborators, including his back then wife, Andrian. But I mean, with this Golden Record, they actually went one step further and they included much more information. Part of the material that you can see on the jacket of the Golden Record is already was already included in the Pioneer plaque. For instance, this is the map of 14 pulsars, where you could use actually an intelligent civilization could use to figure out exactly where we are located in the Milky Way. The same map of the 14 pulsars appear here on top of the basically cover of the phonograph. There is a ceramic stylus that goes on top of the phonograph and helps people read, and there's information as to how fast you have to rotate this so that you could figure out exactly what information is located. So that's like the complications with opening and decoding the information on this phonograph is not something that I'm going to cover tonight. It is a completely different story that requires a whole different talk. What I'm going to focus, however, on tonight is what the content of this phonograph is. So on the phonograph, we have 115 images from Earth, greetings in 55 languages, a variety of sounds from the earth, including different sounds of animals, for instance, whales, even whales. We have the sound of wind, we have the sound of thunder, we have the sound of laughter, and so on and so forth. And of course, in addition to all that, what is fascinating is that 90 minutes of music is recorded onto this phonograph. Okay, so and that's what I'm going to focus for this talk on, the 90-minute collection of music that is there, and whether it is comprehensible to another intelligent species at all or not. But before going further, I mean, they say hindsight is 2020. Once they launched the spacecrafts, they realized that some of the pictures that are included about our daily life on the phonograph could be very, very confusing if they are seen by an alien species who have no idea how we look like. So just to make things a little bit more fun, these are some of the pictures that I have chosen to show you guys. So there, as I said, there are 115 pictures, lots and lots of, there's some pages of books, some mathematics that is included, pictures of the planets in our planetary system, and so on and so forth, and of course, pictures of everyday life. So, but some of the pictures, as I said, could be very confusing. Now, take a look at this particular picture, the one with the sprinters. So, do you see anything that you might find confusing if you were an extraterrestrial who had never come across a human being? Any ideas?
I think for us, it looks like a little bit weird because the feet aren't very visible, like the legs aren't properly visible.
Okay.
So maybe that.
Yeah. What else? Anyone else would like to contribute? I love this picture because it could be very confusing.
Well, that indeed is a beautiful picture.
It is, but there is something seriously wrong with it.
About his legs?
What about the legs, Pouria?
Well, his legs are too, I feel like it's too muscular.
Too muscular, okay. But yeah, you're right about the legs, but there's something else. Imagine that you're an extraterrestrial and you have never seen a human being. Take a look. All of these guys have one leg in the air. You see? So if an extraterrestrial has never seen us walk, they would think that we walk on one leg. And what makes them even more confused is that these three guys here to the right, they all have their left legs in the air, but this guy has his right leg, right? So that could be quite confusing. Now take a look at this picture and compare it with this picture. I don't know how clear this is. So this is a picture of a supermarket, a woman buying fruit. What do you see at the top?
I think those are
They look
trucks.
like toys to me.
Toy
Sorry.
trucks. Yeah, toy trucks. That's right, toy trucks. And take a look at this. This is a picture
Yeah,
of a busy
I
street.
can see this might confuse some aliens.
It does, right? So do you go to the place that you sell fruit to buy these cars and then they somehow grow and they become bigger and they go in the street, right? So that could be quite confusing too. So I mean, there are a number of such examples in the collection of the images of Voyager golden records that could be confusing. One of the pictures that I discuss in my class on extraterrestrial life debate is this picture where a pregnant woman is shown. And I mean, it might not be very clear here because of the size, but I mean, it might be that they ask, okay, what is going on? Is some of these people basically hold another person inside them, or is this person in control of this person, or is this a robot being controlled by this tiny little being which might be intelligent? So that could be quite confusing too. This one is a bit spooky, right? Showing eating, drinking, and licking, different actions in everyday life, but I mean, it looks a bit weird. Anyhow, let's move on. So one of the other pictures that actually show up in the Voyager Golden Record is actually some music, some written music along with a violin. And I mean, this only represents the tip of the iceberg. Actually, 75% of the total playing time of the record is assigned to music. So as I said, we have 115 images, we have 55 greetings in different languages. We have, of course, sounds, but still 75% of the total playing time of the record is assigned to music. So there is a collection of 90 minutes of music on the Voyager Golden Record, and the list is quite diverse. So we have some giants of classical music, pieces by giants of classical music like Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart. And then we have folk songs from indigenous people, and we have music like pop music, and even music by the blind Willie Johnson, which was chosen to go on this record to represent the type of music that human beings actually listen to. So just to give you some idea, this is an incomplete list, but it is still showing you all the titles of the music that went on to this record, right? So from the top, we have Bach's Brandenburg Concerto number 2, and then we have, of course, music from Java, from Senegal, from Zaire, from Australia, Aboriginals, from Mexico, and then it goes on. And then there's another Bach, Gavotte Rondo. There is Mozart, the Queen of the Night aria, the very famous aria from Mozart's Magic Flute. And then it goes to Peru, and I mean, Azerbaijan, and then suddenly you end up with Stravinsky, which is even not comprehensible by everyone on earth, to my knowledge. And the list goes on, right? From all the countries, Bulgaria, for instance, and again, China, and so on and so forth. So this is not a complete list, but just to give you some idea as to the types of the music that are recorded on the phonograph. Now, of course, Sagan himself, who was the chair of the committee who selected the music, was aware of the difficulties that would be involved in decoding the messages that are encoded on this phonograph. And he famously said that the spacecraft will be encountered and the record played only if there are advanced spacefaring civilizations in interstellar space. But still, with the hope that, yeah, there could be such a civilization, they went on and they chose this huge collection of music. Now, the criteria for the choice of music that they had two criteria. One was that it was supposed to reflect the geographical diversity of the music of Earth. So each country has their own music, and people of different tribes have their own music, and so on and so forth. And of course, it has to be good music, which is a very loaded term. And the majority of musicologists, anthropologists, sociologists, they try to avoid the term good music. I mean, after all, what is good music, right? Music is a completely subjective art, and the music that I think is beautiful might not be good to you at all. It might be ridiculous, right? So, I mean, that was one of the biggest issues with the collection of music that they chose. But of course, the music is chosen, the collection is out there, and the question that we are going to focus on is music comprehensible to an alien intelligent civilization or not? is the terrestrial music, if it is ever found by another intelligent civilization, is it comprehensible at all? Would they even understand what this is? Or no, they're going to be completely confused. So just to put the questions that I am going to discuss in more detail in a rigorous framework, the two questions that I'm going to ask is, do other intelligent species have a form of music? I mean, is music music a universal phenomenon, or is it just something that happens here on Earth? And of course, is terrestrial music comprehensible to extraterrestrials? So, two questions. Is music a universal phenomenon? And also, is terrestrial music comprehensible to extraterrestrials? So let's go on and explore these two questions further. First, do other intelligent species have music or not? Well, of course, this is not a question that really was asked in the 20th century. It was a question that was asked 300 years ago by Christian Huygens, famous for the discovery of Titan and the rings of Saturn, the Dutch astronomer who contributed hugely to the fields of physics and astronomy. In the final years of his life, Huygens basically wrote a book. It was in the form of a letter to his brother, Constantine, and he emphasized to his brother that he wants this work to be published. The work, which was published eventually posthumously after the death of Huygens himself, is known as Cosmotheories. And in Cosmotheories, Huygens explores really, really interesting ideas about habitability of other planets and the form, the physiology, basically the construction of the society, the beliefs, and the arts of extraterrestrials, if they exist. So one of the arguments that he puts forward is still could to some extent be valid today. And he argues that, of course, any intelligent species, in order to survive and make progress, they should have senses. After all living beings should have some sort of senses. And he's talking really about complex beings like animals and humans. He talks about the fact that they should have senses in order to survive in their environment. They should be able to see, they should be able to hear. And where sight is not helpful as a means to provide food or basically avoid danger, the sense of hearing complements sight. So he argues that any intelligent species that is out there should have some form of sight and some form of hearing. And then he goes on to basically argue that having senses is not necessarily only for survival. Of course, it is a necessity to survive in an environment, but he also mentions that basically humankind reaps pleasure from the use of their senses. So, for instance, you look at a beautiful piece of art and you enjoy that. Or you listen to a beautiful piece of music and you enjoy that music. So you reap pleasure from employing your senses. So, of course, music is the way that we seek pleasure from the sense of hearing. And based on that, Huygens argues that music should be a universal phenomenon. And here I have an excerpt from Cosmotheories where Huygens writes, the laws of music, and this is not a typo, this is how it was spelled in the original text, are unchangeably fixed by nature. Why, supposing other nations and creatures endued with reason and sense, as well as we, should not they reap the pleasures arising from the senses as well as we too? Okay, so what he's basically arguing in the language of 300 years ago is that basically if intelligent extraterrestrials have senses, they're going to come up with ways to basically seek pleasure from employment of those senses. And of course, music is a way of doing it. Now, the question, of course, what the question that we're talking about is, do other intelligent species have music or not? And as I said, Huygens tried to answer that, and his answer was affirmative. But of course, his argument was an argument that was fit for his time, where scientific arguments were generally undertoned by religious sentiments. But of course, it is true that an extraterrestrial intelligent species could emerge and evolve in an environment that is completely different from ours. And does that mean that if they evolve in an environment that is different from ours, could it be that they have music or not? Basically, to answer this question, we have to go back to the laws of evolution, okay, Darwinian evolution, so evolution by natural selection. We must look at the evolutionary function of music to understand whether other intelligent species have music or not. Now, here is the challenge. The origin of music is quite unknown, and so far, evolutionary biologists have been unable to basically find a function for music that contributes to the survival and success of our species in an environment, right? What does music do? Does it help us with food? Does it help us with shelter? What kind of function, evolutionary function, does it do to contribute to our survival and success in our environment? We are not sure. Despite this, what is interesting is that there is not even one single primitive tribe on Earth that is found which do not have some form of music. Now, today it is even known that Neanderthals, who are usually pictured as brutes and less intelligent than Homo sapiens, than modern man, of course, they made music too. So here I have a picture of a 60,000-year-old Neanderthal flute, which was made from the thigh of a young bear. And you can clearly see the shape of the flute. Actually, if you search that, people have come up with replicas of this flute and they have played music on it to see how it would sound. So not only the modern human has music, music was something that even Neanderthals had. And we still cannot figure out exactly what the function of music is. Darwin himself, of course, hypothesized that music, in fact, is a sort of proto-language. But so it was music first and then language developed. That's what he hypothesized. But what is important is that music is not similar to a vestigial organ, right? Like your wisdom tooth. Because vestigial organs, basically, they lose their function over time. But it is interesting that music still plays a huge role in human psychology, physiology, social behavior, connections, and so on and so forth. So it is not even a vestigial, you cannot compare it to a vestigial organ either. In fact, it is believed that music and speech are intimately related. And of course, the question that comes up is, if speech and music are intimately connected, we assume that any intelligent species out there should have some form of speech. So does it mean that they should have some form of music? That's a question that remains unanswered, and we are not sure. But of course, I would like to point one more thing here, and that is that music, the musical intervals that we find pleasing to our ears, have certain mathematical relationships amongst each other. This was something that was known by the Pythagoreans in ancient Greece. They knew about the relationship between the intervals, musical intervals, and mathematics. So if you take mathematics to be a universal language, to be something that everyone can access, then is it just that music, because of it being so close to mathematics, is also a universal phenomenon or not? So these are the questions that remain to be answered. Now, of course, the next question that I would like to answer and talk about, I won't have an answer, but just to discuss it in more detail, is whether terrestrial music is comprehensible to extraterrestrial. So suppose that at some point in the future, this Voyager records are found by some intelligent species. Could it be that basically they understand what it is or not? Well, regardless of the answer to the universality of music, to the question of universality of the music, we should note that the answer to the second question, whether terrestrial music is comprehensible or to extraterrestrials or not, is likely not. The reason is not very complicated. Anthropologists actually have researched music and society, and they argue that recognizing and appreciating the meaning of music requires a cultural milieu. You have to have a cultural background and understanding of the music that you're listening to so that you recognize it, you appreciate it, and you enjoy it. Without the proper cultural background, in fact, it is not possible to understand music. And one excellent example of such a case is, of course, there is this tribe of primitive human beings, the Yanomama tribe or Yanomami. They live in the Amazon rainforest between Venezuela and Brazil, and there are around 35,000 of them, and they are quite isolated. They are not in contact with any beings from outside, and they live really primitive forms of life. And it appears at some point in the past, Yanomama shaman was played Mozart, a piece by Mozart, a quartet by Mozart. And when he listened to it, apparently the first question he had was, what language are they speaking? So he could not recognize that this is music. He actually took it to be, in fact, a form of language. And this, despite the fact that these are intelligent beings, just like us, they have the same level of intelligence. They actually sing themselves. They have basically melodic and rhythmic intonations, and they possess, as I said, the same level of intelligence as us. But because of the lack of the cultural background, the cultural milieu, they could not even recognize that this is music and not language. So the answer to the question as to whether terrestrial music is comprehensible to extraterrestrials or not, it is quite likely that it is not. Even if they have some form of music, it might be that they do not even recognize our music. So finally, I should wrap up by telling you that it is quite unlikely that the music of the Golden Record is comprehensible to other intelligent species if, and this is a big if they exist, and another big if they ever encounter and come across these golden records, and another big if again, if they ever manage to decode the information there. Now, the collection of music of golden records, however, has another significance. It is a reflection of us, human beings, when how we represent ourselves as an intelligent species, when we are completely, when we dispel, basically we are, if you want, we dispose of all concepts such as gender, race, nationality, and so on and so forth. Without any of those, if we are to represent ourselves as a feeling creature, how we would represent ourselves. This music represents us as Homo sapiens. These records might be found again in the form of a time capsule, if you want, by our future descendants many generations from now. And these records give them a good amount of information about how we thought, how we felt, and what we found beautiful. Other than that, I guess that's it for tonight, and thank you very much for listening to me.
All right, thank you so much. That was an amazing talk. We really enjoyed a lot, and we do have a few questions prepared for you.
Sure.
So I think the first question is by Pouria.
Okay, thank you so much, Maheen. So this might have been, I don't know, out of all possible music pieces, why did the scientists choose those specific musics?
Okay, so that was a difficult question. I mean, even for them, like what music to include, they wanted to, as I said, they had two criteria. One was that it should basically represent the diversity of the type of music that exists on Earth. And the other one was that it would be good music. But I mean, as I said, good music, we don't know what good music is. You cannot tell someone what good music is. But they, of course, included some classical pieces by Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart. Actually, there are 3 pieces by Bach there. So, and because they believe that it is the best representative of music of humankind. The other issue is that they basically assume that because of the mathematical nature of music of Bach and Beethoven, even if extraterrestrials are not aware of our music in the form of music, they could still see the mathematical relationships, the symmetries, the repetitions in the music of Bach and Beethoven, and appreciate something about it. So that is basically their choice. In fact, Carl Sagan famously said that if it were up to him, he would just send 90 minutes of Bach, but that would be showing off to the cosmos. So they chose other composers as well.
Thank you so much. And so my next question is, do you even think the sound spectrum would be audible for an alien civilization if they listen to the files?
Well, that's an excellent question. And yeah, it is quite likely that they do not hear in the same frequency range that we do. So yeah, it might not even be audible, but I mean, as I said, the repetition and the patterns of the music should be understandable to some extent.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, I think next question is by Dorsa.
Yes, thank you so much for interesting presentation on Voyager's Golden Record. I, for one, did not know much about it until you brought it up, actually, so thank you so much.
Happy.
My first question for you is, what made you so interested in this topic? Why did you choose to talk about the music of Voyager's Golden Records?
Well, actually, music and astronomy are quite related to each other, if you want. They have a long relationship amongst each other. And, you know, no one knows what the origin of music is. And the fact that we chose to send music to represent us in space, that is a fascinating topic to me, right? And of course, I came across this when I read Cosmotheorist by Christian Huygens. And I did research it more because the arguments that Huygens was putting forward were quite fascinating. So I found it fascinating that his views 300 years ago are still being debated today and are still being actually used to provide a time capsule, if you want, to represent us in the space, even either to the future generations or to another extraterrestrial civilization.
Yes, that's very true. I'm aware that the phonograph that Voyager carried was a 12-inch gold-plated copper disc. I want to know, why did NASA choose gold-plated copper for the disc, and why not other elements, perhaps silver even?
Okay, as far as I know, the reason for the choice of basically the coating was to basically protect the disk from the harsh environment of the space, from the cosmic rays in particular, because this thing is going to be going there for millions of years. So this was apparently the best type of coating that they could come up with to protect it against the harsh environment that it would be journeying.
All right, so we have a few questions by Zena. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for a great talk. I really, really enjoyed it. And I actually had no idea that this was actually a mission that was accomplished. And I think now I appreciate those efforts much more than I used to. And I have a question about the choice of what we sent. So why was music or sound per se chosen as a form of communication with extraterrestrial life? Why didn't we send a piece of artwork? Why wasn't it like the Mona Lisa or the Last Supper? Even though we know that great artists like Da Vinci, they had so many clues inside their paintings, and they also like use some mathematical ratios. So that was very interesting for me.
Yeah, it's interesting for me as well. And to be honest, I don't know. They chose music to represent us, right? Maybe because they sent so many images and they wanted to have sound as well to show that, okay, we have basically sound we could hear. We have this sense of hearing. But other than that, that's a question that has occurred to me as well. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they found like a piece of art, a painting to be too complicated to be deciphered by extraterrestrials, but music not as much. But that's an excellent question, and I don't know the answer to that. Or maybe they were just limited by this amount of space that they had.
Awesome, thank you. And I have one more question. Has there been any type of communication detected with any form of extraterrestrial life, or how are we able to even like detect that or know that it has happened?
So no, there has not been any form of communication with any extraterrestrials, like reception of a signal, I'm assuming you're referring to, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no. I mean, if that happens at any moment, that would be like a huge revolution on Earth. No, but I mean, usually the belief is that a signal that is produced by an intelligent species, basically. A natural signal from something that is produced in nature. Can you guys hear me?
I think you were cutting off a
Yeah,
little
I
bit,
know.
but
I
we
was
can.
running out of battery, so I saved myself.
All right,
Sorry
we
about
can now. Yeah.
So, okay, yeah. So the idea is that any signal that is targeted towards us by another intelligent species, it should basically be planned so that it does not mimic anything that exists in nature. And because of its repetitive nature, it should be recognizable from something that happens naturally in the universe. But of course, any signal that is out there and we cannot immediately identify, people are going to look at it and eliminate every possible natural source before making the bold move of saying, okay, maybe another intelligent species is sending us this signal.
That is a
Okay.
great point. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So we have a last few questions by Nakul. Go ahead.
Hello, my questions are not much related to astronomy or kind of thing. Let's just really your personal opinion about music and astronomy. So my question is, how do you relate music and astronomy? Like, what kind of thing you feel which relates the both? Personally, you can just tell your opinion.
Okay, sorry, you were cutting out a bit. So are you asking me how I relate music and astronomy?
Exactly. In your own words.
Okay, sure. So, I mean, I think both of them are grand, right? Both of them, at least for me, I mean, people might be different, but both of them for me give that sense of exaltation and feeling that I am small when I look at the sky, but at the same time, I have this great feeling when I listen to music that sort of tells me that, okay, I do exist in this universe and I am part of this universe. So, I mean, they sort of complement each other. And I mean, as I said, music and astronomy, they go back a long time, back in the time of Pythagoras. Basically, they believe that all the planets move on crystalline spheres, and as these crystalline spheres they move, basically they produce a type of harmonious music. But they only said that the only person who can hear it is, of course, Pythagoras himself. So I mean, I think they sort of complement each other because they look at different aspects. One of them is so subjective, the other one is so objective. So for me, they complement each other.
That's amazing. And my next question is like, it's kind of, so what song like which you recommend to us, like which gives a strong feel of astronomy?
As I said, I mean, I already mentioned Carl Sagan talking about bragging to the cosmos. If he had sent all the music of Bach, I think any piece by Bach would give you that strong sense of feeling of astronomy. His music is just, it has a, I don't know what I should call it, a divine, a spiritual element into it that no other music has. So really, I think if you want to complement astronomy, you should complement it with music of Bach.
That's really great to hear. And now I'm just giving over Dorsa, who's gonna wrap up this session.
Well, everyone, you have been listening to the Alani Carswell Observatory's weekly Teletube broadcast, the Astronomy and Astrophysics program, written and presented by the students, faculty, alumni, and friends of York University. A special thank you to Dr. Parandis Tajbakhsh for your interesting presentation. We really appreciate your time. The host this evening has been Maheen, Nakul, Zena, Pouria, and myself, Dorsa. Make sure to leave any comments or questions in the comment section of the video and talk to us in the chat right now. We will be around for the next 20 minutes to answer your questions. All of our programs are free, but if you would like to make a donation, see our website at observatory.info.york.ca. You can always connect with us on Twitter with the handle @YorkObservatory and check out our website for show notes, content, updates, contact info at observatory.info.york.ca. Thank you for tuning in. Clear skies and have a good night.